Hello and welcome to this episode of Demystified as we explore home cooking in a modern world. In this episode of Demystified, I'm joined by James Vogdanos. James has had a working lifetime in appliances and in marketing in particular. We talk about ovens and what James expects to see coming onto the market. Hello, I'm Linda and I'm sitting here with James Vogdanos. Hello, James.
How are you, Linda? You well?
Very good, thank you, very good. Thank you for coming in today.
My pleasure.
One of the journeys that we've had with Cooking with Steam is meeting people like you who understand the appliances and the world of cooking in a different way to us. And every time we do have a chat, it always ends up going off on different tangents, but it's always interesting to me, and I thought I'd love to get you in, and thanks for coming in, to talk about the appliance world and how things have changed, because you've been in it for at least 25 years. Correct. And you've seen so many changes in the industry over the time, and some of them good, some of them bad, some of them stay, some of them don't. Things fall in favour, things fall out of favour. But I just love your thoughts, James, on where you've seen things in the past and how things are moving in the future, particularly given our love of ovens and steam ovens in particular.
Well, it's an interesting question you pose, because has it changed that much? That's what I'll say. We think of the major changes in appliances, and I wouldn't say they're that great. I would say what the biggest change is, if we think about the kitchen, is the design of the kitchen. So the appliances become much more a showcase than hidden away in the old-fashioned kitchen where we saw four walls and the kitchen encased, and you couldn't see it. So you think about the appliance, how it changed. The appliance had to become better looking, let's say. So aesthetics played a major role, because if it was ugly, you just wouldn't buy it.
That's true.
Doesn't matter what the brand is. Doesn't matter how aspirational it is. You would go, I'm not going to buy it. That's your first tick, let's say. So the way our houses were structured, where appliances became more a centrepiece in the kitchen, because the kitchen became a centrepiece, so they followed suit of the kitchen trend. So that was your first tick. But then when you look at the other big change, would be around media. What happened? What did we end up with on television? Cooking shows. An astronomical amount of cooking shows.
That's true.
From how to bake bread to how to be a master chef and everything in between. So what did appliance companies do? Looked at that trend and said, people are exploring food at a far greater level and probably are bettering themselves in their journey, to use a horrible word, in cooking. Hence, what appliance companies did is said, well, what does a professional product do? It uses steam. So if we think of any restaurant, a majority would use some form of steam cooking. So what did appliance companies do? They invested in the same technologies, not as great, but the same technologies to bring steam on board.
Well, I know from Paul, the big sort of rationale ovens that he used to use when he was doing chefing full-time, very different, but the same principle. He just had to adapt it down to a small cavity rather than a multi-shelf beast.
And that's people also seeing that and understanding it. You think of a restaurant, you had open restaurants and you could see how they were cooking and what they were using. So people become intrigued and say, well, why can't I do this at home? I mean, not everybody wants to cook, of course. So some people just don't care. That it's funny how you break people down. If we put the marketing hat on now, different segments of people. Some people just cook the same food over and over and over and over again. You think of mum who's got 4 kids, no time. She's not going to be cooking, something lavish. She's just going to cook the same old thing, heat it up in the oven. Then you think of the weekend warrior, as I call them, who loves to explore, who has time on their hands and loves to cook. They'll want an appliance that's got far more capabilities than just a basic fan-forced oven, let's say. And then you've got the third customer, and it's all about brand, and it's only about what it looks like. And they don't really care about functionality. They just care, I've got the best, and if I need to use it, I can use it. And so there's various different customers in this segment. But the appliance, in essence, is part of a bigger picture because it's part of the home.
But it's now so much... Well, yes, it's interesting because it is. We had that little tiny boxy kitchen, and when you renovated, we've now got a very big open plan kitchen and everything's on display. And when we were looking at ovens, though, it was a long time ago, James, but...
Last week.
It was about 7 years ago now, 8 years ago, that they had a sort of a very similar look, though. You know, the wall ovens do look very similar, and, you know, there's shades of grey, shades of black, you know, it's hard to distinguish, but inside, what intrigued me about the whole change of having dual ovens, and we don't drink that much coffee at home that we needed a coffee maker, although they're, you know, everywhere now. But the steam element really intrigued me. You know, how can I cook better with this? To me, it was just the most interesting aspect of really redesigning our kitchen. Getting that, convincing my husband for a start, and then getting that in, that we weren't wasting our time and money, because, like you said, you know, we were the ones who cooked the same 4 or 5 meals on rotation because we come home from work and that's how it is. And
external influences again.
Yeah.
So we look at it like this. I mean, you wanted to start to cook something different. Other people also maybe want to start to cook something different. So there needed to be something with the capability to offer that to you. So hence, you know, steam arrives, you know, within an oven, a domestic oven. But then you're still roadblocked, one would say, that your exploration is not met by the capability of the oven or an understanding how to utilise the oven. So hence there needed to be a bridge between the two to somehow bring you both together from an appliance perspective and a cooking perspective. Because the appliance can't do it by itself, and neither can the customer who has never done it before. So the appliance is really a static box. It can only do what you tell it to do. You know, everyone will say, oh, but it got auto programs, it got all sorts of things. Oh, yeah, it will do everything. It won't do anything unless you hit the buttons. And you've got to know what to hit before you do it, as you encountered. So somehow there's got to be a bridge between it. And we talk modern technologies. And people say, yeah, you can devise an app, you can use an app, it can show you this, can show you that. But it's still not bridging it, because it's still something you've got to go to push a button again, and you've got to hunt. You don't know where you're hunting. So there's the rationale should be that cooking is a joyful experience. And that is the true joy of the whole process.
Apart from eating it, and
right?
having the right wine.
Exactly,
yes.
Correct. You know, whether you select Grange or you select Lewin Estate or, you know, or whatever, a Henschke, whatever you wish to choose. But in saying that, the appliance can only do what you tell it to do. It is not the joyful part. It's the workhorse. Let's call it the workhorse, for a better word. Mm-hmm. The joy is the creation and, of course, the eating of the creation. To a chef, it could be more the creation, the plating, what's produced. Yes, you need the right equipment to produce, one would say. But you've got to know how to use the right equipment. You know, just going into a store and going, I'm going to buy brand X because he says he's got the best steam oven in the world, is not enough, because you don't know how to use brand X and how to generate the best result from brand X, unless you have your own personal chef. You have Paul sitting beside you going, oh no, you got to do it this way, you're doing it wrong.
You've never cooked with Paul before, have you?
Yeah, I have. but you know, unless you've got that, or you've got somehow that and we think of technology here, the appliance can do it automatically, which will be impossible because you've still got to select something. You're governed with trial and error. And cooking, like anything, is a trained and learned task, one would say. It doesn't come naturally. It comes from exploring, making mistakes, and the appliances involved, of course, because you could choose the wrong program and you end up with the wrong result. And you look at then you start blaming everything from the flour was no good to the appliance is garbage. I bought this and it doesn't do what it's telling me it does. But the journey is a difficult one, because your expectation is mental. Your outputs are very different, though. And can we join the two together? Because the appliance is just, as I always say, it's just a box. They're all modern day oven is 60 centimetres by 60 centimetres. Everyone says they got the same things in it. I've got 5 levels, I've got this, I've got that, I've got that. They're all identical, in all fairness. There is some uniqueness in some versus the others, but in all fairness, to your cooking result, that'll be governed by a lot of parameters, from ingredients, preparation, to collectively how you put it together and what program you choose.
Well, back in the day when I just had no idea about my steam oven, and the first time I used it and steam came out, we were shocked. That hadn't actually been explained to us. My husband was sure something was not installed properly or that it was broken. But one of the things I've really loved with Paul and the videos that we were doing, particularly in the early days, was really about two things: showing someone who's in their many years of cooking. I won't give my age away, but you can guess it's been a long time. But learning how to cook differently, exactly as you said, James, and also showing what this oven can do. It's not just enough to say I've got a combi steam as an example. And yes, I think we've demonstrated that adding steam adds something to the cooking process, but the true joy of cooking properly on steam only and the benefits that they give you, I would never have known. And that's what I think, particularly in those early recipes where Paul was showing how to cook different levels of fish, what to cook with it. It was about pushing you out of what you may have done in the past to say, hey, try the appliance in this way. And it might not be food that you cook every night of the week, and it might be the weekend warrior gives it a go. But if you follow the recipe for something different, it will work, because, as you said, the box is a box, and it's how you look at it, making the best out of it. And I reckon in the old oven I had, I would have probably used it, the same way, 180, fan forced, forever. I never tried anything different.
But this is the exploration side of everybody now coming out, because we've been around it, from going to restaurants, cooking shows, cookbooks, the internet. Everything has shown us and educated us that there's more. This is where we're at. We have opened Pandora's box, for a better word, and being able to look inside that and go, this is how they cook in another country. This is how this race cooks. Whereas if you think backwards, if you think back to the 70s when food was absolutely bland until the migrants walked in here in the 60s.
Thank God.
Yes, correct.
Thank
me
God
being of migrant parents, but you see that you could only find out something from what you were taught, and I don't think we've come very far, in all fairness. But we've been able to look at different ways to learn. Whether it is the internet, whether it is digital, whether it is intuitive appliances who got some guidance through them. So the biggest change has been the openness of, let's say, a library, because that's what the internet is, a massive library that's free, that can give you anything you want and show you something, and you might get excited by that and try it. That's where we're at. I mean, that's the purest form of what we have in front of us at the moment. That the internet is an enormous library, and let's say Cooking with Steam is one of the facilitators within that library to educate you when you have bought this appliance and go, okay, salesman did a great job. Yeah, it does everything. Can probably even iron my clothes. Get it home, plug it in. I can't use it because I don't know how. And that's where it stops. So you have to then, as a consumer, either go back to the brand you bought it from, say, okay, it doesn't do what you're telling me it does, or basically be self-sufficient and go educate yourself and find ways to learn how to use it. And I think that's where you're at when we first met. And we're lucky in that there are, to use Cooking with Steam as an educator within that process, people out there who have a passion for Steam, who are able to give you the tools to utilise it correctly. And that's what this is about. And if the appliance can't deliver what it's meant to be, then it's an appliance issue. But prior to that, it's a balance of it's a balance of our skills, a balance of understanding how it works, and then a balance of, am I actually doing this right, and do I need some proper guidance?
That's sort of an interesting, very interesting insight there, James, because I think that's the nail on the head, really, isn't it? It's not about the appliance, it's about how you use it. And I know the more and more I look online, I love seeing more and more people posting things on Steam, because it means that this isn't a passing fad. It's not going to go away. No. The more and more people that come online and post their successes, their failures, post their questions, the more and more Facebook groups there are, the more and more Instagram posts, the more there is in the community talking about Steam. And I know from our podcast, we have listeners all over the world, and probably a third to 40% of our listeners are now from the USA, which we think is fantastic. But it just shows that all around the world, if there's this growing community, that these appliances are here to stay and they won't change and they won't be replaced by the next big thing as it comes along.
You probably think they can't be.
Well, we know from experience they can be.
Yeah, unless we start eating pills and tablets. But
well, we're not there yet.
But in saying that, if you think back all the way, I go back to my dad cooking fish on a beach. You know, they would dig a hole and create a fire, wrap it up, put it in, cover it. And that's creating steam in itself because there's moisture within the fish. And it would taste wonderful, no doubt, because the fish is readily
so
fresh, caught straight off an island. Cook it because it's the only food you got to eat. But I don't think we'll get far from that because we still need to eat food and we still enjoy the spectacle of food. You know, we talked about wine earlier. People always want to eat. They always want to drink because it's a natural conversation. It's the lay of the land, one would say. You know, what do you do with your family? You have a meal, you sit them down, you have family dinner. You know, we'll talk about what we've cooked or how was it cooked. So we're instilling that or imparting that knowledge ongoing. And I think sometimes that, you know, we go back to appliances. Having the family dinner is very organic. Buying an appliance is motivated by many things, like I said earlier. You know, it could be aesthetics, could be how well it cooks. Does it fit my needs? Does it fit my big bowl, my big pot? Does it? You know, it was a lot of people used to come in with their big tray and go, "Oh, it won't fit in. No, this is no good." You know, thinking you just throw your $10 tray away and you buy a new one, and you can buy the appliance you like. So we're so habitual in what we do, is what I said. But I think the stem of the root of a household is to eat. You know, to eat, drink, talk, be merry. It's very basic. We're only human. And where can the appliance help to do that in a better way and quicker way, one would say? Because we're all time poor. We want to spend as much time as we can on the good things and not be wasting it on things like, how do I use this and does it work for me? It's a bit like I always say, man's best friend is not a dog, it's actually a dishwasher.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you because another little anecdote, Dougie and I had never had a dishwasher, and for 25 years we'd lived without one. And when just the two of us, we thought how, whenever our friends' kids or, nieces and nephews would come and stay, it was great doing the dishes with them because you got to chat to them and they'd have a chat back, real open sort of chat. You can't hide when you've got a tea towel on your hands in water. But we got a dishwasher, and I must say, it was probably a wahoo moment. Why do we wait so long? We love it. We love it. It's probably my second favourite appliance. Other than, my first is my wine fridge. And then my combi steam oven.
But appliances, when we discuss appliances, should make life easier. That's what they're there for. They're there in two ways: to make life easier and to create, let's say. You don't go out to buy an appliance. You don't have to. You think about it, use an oven as an example. You can virtually cook everything on a barbecue. You could heat the barbecue up, put the lid down, even if it's a pot. People would say, how would you boil water? Simple. There's flame under there. You can boil water. It's not that hard. So you boil pasta. So do you need one? So it's got to play a role, whether it's precise in its cooking, or an extension of my cooking, and bring something to the table. And I'll use another anecdote that this is not mine, but somebody said to me not so long ago why they loved induction cooktops. They said, because I could boil water faster. And I said, yeah, so what? And he said, well, in my busy schedule, that saves me 2 hours a week because I'm always cooking. He's actually a cook. We won't say who. But that 10 minutes he saved each time in boiling a big pot of water because induction was faster, freed up time that he could play with the kids.
Amazing.
So it's a different take. That was a different take on what he's looking at an appliance saying, the speed of this allowed me to do something else that I found more enjoyable than waiting for water to boil.
Well,
it's very simple.
It is, isn't it, in its core? So looking ahead, James, we've seen ovens go from just a little box and they put a fan in, and that was pretty revolutionary. Then they've put grills in, and we've had microwaves change, and microwaves with convection, and all these appliances. Now it's like trying to, buy a car. You don't just buy a car, you've got to look at the 10 models within each range of car. But what do you think's next coming after steam has been sort of bedded in for a while?
I think one of our pet hates, customers, is even if it's steam or it's traditional cooking, ovens are too slow to heat up. So I think there will be different technologies used around the creation of heat. Today, traditionally, we're still using elements to create heat. Same type of elements we've been using for 30 years. No difference. Yes, we've added steam and combi and everything else, electronics to do all sorts of things, and auto cooking. But we still are at that point where we're actually still slow to heat up an oven. Even if it's 4 to 6 minutes. If you turned your car on and you couldn't drive it for 4 to 6 minutes, you'd be complaining.
It's true. Very true.
Whereas an oven, for example, you cannot put the food in till it's actually heated. And some ovens are 4 minutes, very few. Majority will be 6 to 8 minutes or longer. So technologies have to come in that can make this process much quicker. Because people, like I said, are time poor. And people are impatient. We live in this fast-paced world now. So where can we cut some time out? I don't think... I'm not a chef. I don't know, if you can actually you can speed the process of cooking up, but will you dilute the end result? A chef would be able to answer that one better than I can answer it. But you can definitely change some of the technologies around heat up, and that's going to save you, let's say, anywhere between 6 and 9 minutes. So if you can remove that 6 to 9 minutes, and you use the oven, let's say, 5 times a week, that's 45 minutes.
Which is all adds up.
All adds up. That's 45 minutes I could be sitting there drinking wine rather than
talking
waiting
to the kids
doing something else.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's one of the technologies. Probably the other technology that we'll see is a more, I believe, customised type product. Whereas today we're very much governed by what's on the shelf. e.g., size-wise, why can't I have this oven bigger, let's say? Because I do cook. I'm not cooking for 2 people, I'm cooking for 8 people, let's say. Or why can't I have the aesthetics look different? Why can't I customise the handle, let's say? Because I want it to match my kitchen. So I think, people love to be able to choose. And it's not just about choosing a brand and choosing a look, because many ovens today look the same. If you took the brand off them, they are virtually identical because they're all copying one another. And the brands would say that's not the case, but I come from brand marketing and product development, so I know it is the case.
Well, they do look the same.
Well, of course they do. They do a competitor analysis. They look at it, take pictures, and go, "Oh yeah, that looks good. The customer wants black.
Trend.
We make a black oven." So where do I see the future? Well, it's like fashion. People don't go always buy the same fashion. You go into a store and you can buy the same top in 6 colours. Appliances, okay, they're all pretty much the same size, same. Open them up, they look the same. So one of the areas I think that could change, and this will be for the smaller players and people who have individual taste, is customised products. It happens. You can customise cars. You can customise your house. You can build your kitchen however you want it to be. If you want it to be yellow, it's yellow. If you want it to be white, it's white. If you want it to be black, it's black.
Well, let's see what happens in the future.
Who knows?
Well, I've got a couple of last-minute questions for you. Just
Fire
very
away.
quick. They are rapid fire. Do you have a combi steam oven in your home?
Yes, I have 2 ovens.
Both combi steam?
No, one pyrolytic, one combi steam.
Okay. Do you cook yourself?
No, I use the barbecue.
And last question, I think you're a Hawthorn supporter?
Correct.
Do you think they're going to go well this year?
7th.
7th? Ooh. Yeah.
Why? Are you a Collingwood supporter?
My husband's a Hawthorn supporter. I'm a Saints supporter. So I'm always hopeful they'll get to 7.
What did he think? What did he say?
My husband every year, this is our year. This is the year.
No depth. No depth in that team.
But they've got big heart, he says.
Everyone will claim they've got a big heart. It's like cooking. I guess we all start off with the same ingredients. The results are very different.
Yes, and it's all probably very similar, because what goes on between the ears in the kitchen and what's between the ears on the footy pitch makes a big difference to how they play.
Well, you think about cooking, it's all about preparation.
Yeah, and overthinking some things, I know that I fall into that trap. I overthink it, or I skip a step and I don't watch the recipe properly, and I end up calling Paul, help. And he says, there's no help for that, Linda. There's no help for that.
But we're all like that. We're all impatient. That's one thing. And we all think we know. All right, you go backwards. Here we show our age. When VCRs were first released, no one could tune them in virtually.
It's true.
I was working for an appliance company and they were charging people to tune them into their TV.
And remember how expensive they were to hire?
Yep.
Like $60 to hire a VCR tape.
And fundamentally, why people couldn't tune them in is they skipped steps in the process. So they went from that and they go, oh yeah, I know those bits. So they went from 1 to 0.4 and forgot about 0.2 and 3. And then by not doing 0.2 and 3, you got to the end and it didn't work. And it's the same as cooking. Let's say you're baking bread. If you miss a step, an important step, you're going to put it in that oven and it's going to turn out flat.
I did that with a chocolate cake, but that's a different story and it's already been covered. So, but thank you so much for coming in, James. It's been a pleasure. And thanks for listening, everybody. Bye. Thanks for listening to this podcast as we explore home cooking in a modern world. We'd love you to subscribe, and for more information, please go to our website, cookingwithsteam.com.